Oh, a Karen ruined my wedding by throwing paint on me. So I fought back, watched the chaotic drama unfold. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for our latest HOA battles and justice wins. I was standing in the middle of my private estate in Oakwood Heights, the sun casting a golden glow over the white roses lining the aisle, my wedding dress shimmering as I adjusted my veil. When I heard a commotion at the edge of the property, a sound that made me, Lily Bennett, freeze mid-step, my heart racing as I turned to see what was happening, and I stopped dead at the sight before me. Three masked figures in dark clothing rushing toward me, buckets of paint in their hands. And before I could react, they flung the paint, splashes of red, blue, and yellow drenching my gown, soaking my hair, dripping down my face, and I screamed, my voice a mix of shock and fury. "What are you doing? Stop!" As my guest gasped, Ethan, my groom, running toward me, his tuxedo pristine but his face pale with anger. And I knew exactly who was behind this, because there she was, Karen Foster, the HOA president, standing at the gate of my property, her heavy frame straining against a purple blazer, her arms crossed, a malicious smirk spreading across her round face, her double chin quivering as she shouted, "This wedding is a violation of HOA rules. Lily, you're disrupting the community. Cancel it now, or I'll have you removed." And I felt my blood boil, my hands trembling, and as I wiped paint from my eyes, my voice shaking with rage. "Karen, this is my private land. I own it outright. You have no right to do this. Get out." And her smirk widened, her tone dripping with condescension. "Oh, Lily, the HOA has the authority to enforce standards, and your little spectacle here is a public nuisance. You'll be hearing from our lawyer." And I felt my heart pound as Ethan reached me, his arms wrapping around me, his voice low. "She's gone too far, Lily. We're not canceling anything. We're fighting this." And I nodded because I knew he was right. But I also knew Karen had been targeting me for months. Because we lived here for 2 years, a white bikini model and her black architect fiancé, always feeling the whispers, the stares, the comments like, they don't fit in, despite our quiet life. And now Karen had escalated her vendetta to sabotage my wedding day. So I stepped forward, paint still dripping from my gown, my voice steady. "You've crossed a line, Karen. This is assault, and I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done." And her laugh was sharp, her jowls shaking as she retorted, "Good luck, Lily. The HOA has the community behind me. You're fighting a losing battle." And as she turned to waddle back to her car, I saw neighbors gathering at the edge of my property, some with shock, others with disapproval. And I knew we were in for a fight, because this wasn't the first time Karen had targeted us. She'd started with fake noise complaints about my photo shoots, then spread rumors about Ethan's business, and now she'd ruined my wedding day. But what Karen didn't know was that I wasn't just a model. I was a woman who'd faced adversity in a cutthroat industry, and Ethan was a man who'd never backed down from a fight. So I turned to him, my voice steady. "We're not letting her win. Ethan, we need to document this, call the police, and get a lawyer." And Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. "I'm on it, Lily. She's not getting away with this." So we spent the next hour managing the chaos, the police arriving to take statements, my guests helping clean up the paint as best they could, and I called my best friend and lawyer, Aisha, my voice urgent. "Aisha, Karen just had people throw paint on me at my wedding. She's claiming we're violating HOA rules. We need to fight this, now." And Aisha's tone was fierce. "I'm on my way, Lily. This is assault and a violation of your property rights. We'll sue her for everything she's got." And I felt a surge of determination, because I knew she was right. So we gathered evidence, taking photos of my ruined gown, pulling security footage that showed the masked figures and Karen directing them, her heavy frame unmistakable as she shouted orders. And Ethan posted the footage online, the caption reading, "HOA president ruins our wedding with paint attack Oakwood Heights. We need justice." And I watched as the post gained traction. Thousands of likes, comments like, This is outrageous. She's a monster. And support Lily and Ethan. End this harassment. And pouring in, and I knew we'd struck a nerve because the next day, a reporter showed up at our door, her camera rolling as I spoke. My voice steady despite the paint stains still on my skin. I'm Lily Bennett. Karen Foster sabotaged my wedding because of her jealousy. This isn't about rules. It's about hate. And we're not backing down. And I saw Karen watching from across the street, her heavy frame shifting uncomfortably as she glared at me. But I also saw neighbors starting to talk. The Garcias and Wilsons nodding in support. And I knew this was just the beginning, because I wasn't just fighting for my wedding. I was fighting for justice. For every person in Oakwood Heights who'd been made to feel less than. And I was going to make sure we won, no matter what Karen threw at us next. The viral footage of paint being thrown on me during my wedding had set Oakwood Heights ablaze with outrage. And I, Lily Bennett, could feel the tension rising as Ethan and I prepared to take on Karen Foster and her vendetta. But I knew her sabotage wouldn't stop at ruining our special day, because the very next morning, I received a legal notice from the HOA, a lawsuit accusing us of violating community standards by hosting an unauthorized event, demanding $20,000 in fines and an injunction to prevent us from hosting any future gatherings on our land. And I felt my blood boil as I read the filing, because this was absurd. We'd hosted our wedding on our private property, owned outright, and Karen had assaulted me. Yet she was playing the victim. So I turned to Ethan, who was pacing the living room, his jaw tight, his voice low. Lily, this is a power play. She's trying to bankrupt us and force them out. We need to fight back hard. And I nodded, because I knew he was right. So we called Aisha, our voice urgent. Aisha, the HOA just sued us for hosting our wedding. They're demanding $20,000 and an injunction, but they attacked me. We need to countersue. And Aisha's tone was fierce. I'm on it. Lily, Ethan, this is a clear violation of your property rights. I'll file a countersuit for assault, property damage, and violation of your constitutional freedoms. And I'll dig into Karen's motives. There's more to this. And I felt a surge of hope, because I knew she was right. So we spent the day gathering more evidence, pulling additional security footage that showed Karen directing the masked figures, her heavy frame unmistakable as she shouted orders. And we collected statements from our wedding guests who'd witnessed the attack. And Ethan posted an update online. The caption reading, HOA sues us for our wedding after paint attack, Oakwood Heights. We're fighting back. And I watched as the post exploded. Thousands of likes. Comments like, this is outrageous. They assaulted her. And support Lily and Ethan. End this tyranny. Pouring in, and I knew we'd struck a nerve, because the next day, more reporters showed up at our door, their cameras rolling as I spoke. My voice steady despite the lingering paint stains on my skin. I'm Lily Bennett. Karen Foster sabotaged my wedding with paint, and now she's suing us for hosting it on our own land. This isn't about rules, it's about hate, and we're fighting for justice. And Ethan added, his voice firm, we won't let the HOA bully us. This is our home, and we'll protect our rights. And the story aired that evening. Oakwood Heights HOA sues newlyweds after wedding sabotage. The segment showing our footage, the legal notice, and our words echoing. And I watched as the public outrage grew, social media lighting up with hashtag Justice for Lily and #Stop Karen. Comments like, this is disgusting. She ruined their wedding, and Lily and Ethan deserve better. Fire Karen. Pouring in, and I knew the pressure was mounting, because the next day I saw neighbors gathering outside Karen's house, the Garcias and Wilsons leading a protest, their signs reading protect property rights, and Karen must go. And I joined them, my voice carrying over the crowd. Karen attacked me on my wedding day. Now she's suing us for living on our own land. We're fighting for Oakwood Heights where everyone's rights are respected. Who's with me? And the crowd cheered, their voices a chorus of defiance. But Karen wasn't done, because that afternoon her lawyer released a statement claiming the wedding was a public disturbance and accusing us of defaming the HOA with our baseless allegations. And I felt my jaw tighten because I knew they were trying to spin this, but their words rang hollow because the evidence was undeniable and the public wasn't buying it. The comments online tearing them apart. She's a liar. She assaulted Lily. And support the newlyweds. End this corruption. And I knew we were winning, so I kept pushing, working with Aisha to dig deeper into Karen's motives. And what we found was shocking, because Aisha's private investigator uncovered a series of old text messages between Karen and Ethan, dating back years, where Karen had confessed her feelings for him, saying, "You're too good for someone like her. Ethan, I'd treat you better." And Ethan had rejected her. His responses, polite but firm, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Because this wasn't just about the HOA. This was personal. So I turned to Ethan, my voice steady. "She's been after me because of you. She's jealous. She wanted you and couldn't have you." And Ethan's face darkened, his voice low. "I never gave her any encouragement. Lily, this is sick. We need to expose her." And I nodded, because I knew he was right. So I sent the evidence to Aisha, my voice steady. "We've got her motive. Karen's jealous of me because Ethan rejected her. This is why she's targeting us." And Aisha's tone was electric. "I'm adding this to the countersuit, and I've got a contact at the FBI. They're looking into Karen's financials. We're close." And I felt a wave of hope, because I knew we were close. So I organized another community meeting at the park, my voice carrying over the crowd. "Karen attacked me because of her jealousy. She's trying to tear us apart, but we're fighting for justice. For a Oakwood Heights where everyone's rights are protected. Who's with me?" And the crowd cheered, their signs raised high, and I knew we were ready, because this wasn't just about us anymore. It was about justice. For every person in Oakwood Heights who'd been made to feel less than, and I was going to make sure we won, no matter what came next. The viral footage of paint being thrown on me during my wedding had already set Oakwood Heights on fire, but the revelation of Karen Foster's personal vendetta against Ethan turned the situation into a full-blown inferno. And I, Lily Bennett, could feel the community splitting as Ethan and I prepared for the next phase of our fight. Because while the public's support was growing, Karen's influence still lingered, and I knew the battle was about to get uglier, so I stayed focused. Working closely with Ethan and Aisha to build our case, my home office a hub of activity with legal documents, evidence files, and laptops, and the media frenzy was intensifying, because the very next day, national news outlets descended on Oakwood Heights, their cameras rolling as they interviewed me outside our estate, my voice steady despite the lingering paint stains on my wedding dress. "I'm Lily Bennett. Karen Foster sabotaged my wedding because of her jealousy over my husband, Ethan. She's using the HOA to violate our rights. This isn't about rules, it's about hate, and we're fighting for justice." And Ethan stood beside me, his voice firm. "We won't let Karen destroy our lives. This is our home, and we'll protect our freedom." And the story aired that evening. Oakwood Heights newlyweds fight HOA. After wedding sabotage, driven by jealousy, the segment showing our footage, the text messages between Karen and Ethan, and our words echoing. And I watched as the public outrage exploded, social media ablaze with #JusticeForLily and #StopKaren, comments like, "She ruined their wedding over jealousy? That's sick," and "Support Lily and Ethan, end this corruption," pouring in. But I also saw the community divide, because while many neighbors rallied behind us, the Garcias and Wilsons leading protests outside Karen's house with signs reading, "Protect property rights," and "Karen must go," others sided with her, like Mr. Daniels, a longtime HOA loyalist, who posted online, "The HOA has rules for a reason. Lily's wedding was disruptive. Karen's just doing her job." And I felt my stomach twist, because I knew Karen was manipulating these divisions to her advantage. And I was right, because the next day, Karen's lawyer held a press conference, her heavy frame looming behind him as he spoke. her purple blazer straining against her bulk, her face a mask of false indignation. The HOA acted within its rights to protect community standards. Lily and Ethan Bennett are defaming Ms. Foster with baseless claims of jealousy. This wedding was a public nuisance, and we'll prove it in court. And I felt my blood boil, because I knew she was spinning lies to save herself. But her words had an effect, because I saw more neighbors starting to waver. Mrs. Carter, who'd been neutral, now whispering to others. Maybe the HOA was just enforcing rules. And I knew we had to act fast. So I turned to Ethan, my voice steady. We need to keep the pressure on. We can't let her divide us. Let's organize a community forum, show everyone the truth. And Ethan nodded, his eyes fierce. I'm on it, Lily, and I'll dig deeper into Karen's actions. I think there's more she's hiding. So we spent the day planning, setting up a forum at the local park. And Ethan worked with Aisha to investigate Karen further. And what they found was shocking, because Aisha uncovered a hidden email chain between Karen and a local developer, Oakwood Realty, showing Karen had been promised a $15,000 consulting fee if she could force us to sell our land, the developer wanting to turn our estate into a commercial lot. And I felt a chill run down my spine, because this wasn't just jealousy. This was a calculated plot to profit off our pain. So I told Ethan, we've got her. She's been working with Oakwood Realty to steal our land. This is why she's targeting us. And Ethan's face darkened, his voice low. This is corruption. Lily, we need to expose her. So we sent the evidence to Aisha, my voice steady. We've got more. Karen took money from a developer to force us out. This is why she's doing this. And Aisha's tone was electric. I'm adding this to the countersuit, and I've got a contact at the FBI. They're looking into Oakwood Realty. We're close, and I felt a wave of hope, because I knew we were close. So we held the community forum that evening, the park packed with over 150 residents, my voice carrying over the crowd as I stood beside Ethan. Karen sabotaged our wedding because of her jealousy over Ethan. But it's worse. She took $15,000 from Oakwood Realty to force us off our land. This isn't about rules, it's about greed and hate. We're fighting for justice, for Oakwood Heights, where everyone's rights are protected. Who's with me? And the crowd roared, their signs raised high. But I saw Mr. Daniels and a few others in the back, their faces hard, whispering to each other, and I knew the community was still divided. So Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady. We have proof. Karen's have been lying to you all. She's profiting off this. We need your support to stop her. And I saw some of the skeptics, like Mrs. Carter, start to nod, their expressions softening, and I knew we were making progress. But I also knew the real battle was coming, because this wasn't just about us anymore. It was about justice. For every person in Oakwood Heights who'd been made to feel less than, and I was going to make sure we won, no matter what came next. The community forum had shifted the tide in Oakwood Heights, but I, Lily Bennett, knew the battle was far from won, because while we'd exposed Karen Foster's deal with Oakwood Realty, her influence and the division she'd sown still lingered, and I could feel the tension simmering as Ethan and I prepared for the next phase of our fight. So I stayed focused, working closely with Ethan and Aisha to build our case. My home office, a hub of activity with legal documents, evidence files, and laptops. And the media frenzy was relentless, because the very next day, more national outlets descended on Oakwood Heights, their cameras rolling as they interviewed me outside our estate, my voice steady despite the lingering weight of the ruined wedding. I'm Lily Bennett. Karen Foster sabotaged my wedding because of her jealousy over my husband, Ethan, and she took $15,000 from Oakwood Realty to force us off our land. This isn't about rules, it's about greed and hate. And we're fighting for justice. And Ethan stood beside me, his voice firm. We won't let Karen destroy our lives. This is our home, and we'll protect our rights. And the story aired that evening. Oakwood Heights HOA president took bribes to sabotage newlyweds' wedding. The segment showing our footage, the emails with Oakwood Realty, and our words echoing. And I watched as the public outrage exploded. Social media ablaze with #justice for Lily and #stop Karen, comments like, she's a monster, ruining their wedding for money, and support Lily and Ethan, end this corruption, pouring in. And I knew the pressure was mounting, because the next day I saw neighbors gathering in the park for another protest. The Garcias, Wilsons, and even Mrs. Carter leading a crowd of over 200 residents, their signs reading "Protect Property Rights" and "Karen must pay." And I joined them, my voice carrying over the crowd. Karen took bribes to steal our land. She attacked me on my wedding day. We're fighting for a Oakwood Heights where everyone's rights are respected. Who's with me? And the crowd roared, their voices a thunderous wave of defiance. But I also saw a few holdouts, like Mr. Daniels, still standing on the sidelines, his face hard, whispering to others, she's just stirring up trouble. And I knew Karen was still manipulating some residents, so I turned to Ethan, my voice steady. We need to dig deeper. There's more to her motives. I can feel it. And Ethan nodded, his eyes fierce. I'm on it, Lily. I'll look into her past dealings. There's something we're missing. So we kept pushing, working with Aisha to investigate Karen further. And what we found was a bombshell, because Aisha's private investigator uncovered a series of old social media posts and private messages from Karen, dating back years, where she'd openly expressed her obsession with Ethan, posting photos of him at community events with captions like, "The man who got away," and private messages where she'd written to a friend, "Ethan should have been mine. I can't stand seeing him with that perfect little model. I'll make her pay." And I felt a chill run down my spine, because this wasn't just about money, this was deeply personal. So I turned to Ethan, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. She's been after me because she's in love with you. Ethan, she's jealous. She wanted you and couldn't have you. That's why she did this. And Ethan's face darkened, his voice low. I never gave her any reason to think I was interested. Lily, this is insane. We need to expose her. So we sent the evidence to Aisha, my voice steady. We've got her full motive. Karen's jealousy over Ethan drove her to this, combined with the Oakwood Realty deal. This is why she's targeting us. And Aisha's tone was electric. This is dynamite. Lily, I'm adding this to the countersuit. And I've got a contact at the FBI. They're already investigating Oakwood Realty. They're moving to include Karen in a broader corruption probe. We're close. And I felt a surge of adrenaline, because I knew we were close. So we released the new evidence to the press, and that evening, the story broke. Oakwood Heights HOA president driven by jealousy and greed in wedding sabotage. The article detailing Karen's obsession with Ethan, the $15,000 bribe from Oakwood Realty, and her paint attack on my wedding day, quoting me directly. I'm Lily Bennett. Karen Foster attacked me because she couldn't have my husband, and she took money to steal our land. This isn't about rules, it's about jealousy and corruption. And we're fighting for justice. And I watched as the public reaction intensified, social media erupting with "Justice for Lily" and #stop Karen. Comments like, she's a jealous stalker, lock her up, and Lily and Ethan deserve justice, end this madness, pouring in. And I knew the pressure was unbearable for Karen, because the next day, I saw even more neighbors joining the protests. Mrs. Carter now fully on our side, holding a sign that read, "Karen's a liar." And I overheard Mr. Daniels muttering to another resident, I didn't know it was personal. Maybe Lily's right. And I knew we were winning. So we kept pushing, working with Aisha to prepare for the upcoming court hearing. And I organized another community meeting at the park, my voice carrying over the crowd. Karen's jealousy and greed drove her to attack us, but we're stronger than her hate. We're fighting for justice, for a Oakwood Heights where everyone's rights are protected. Who's with me? And the crowd cheered, their signs raised high, and I knew we were ready, because this wasn't just about us anymore. It was about justice. For every person in Oakwood Heights who'd been made to feel less than, and I was going to make sure we won, no matter what came next. The exposure of Karen Foster's jealousy and her corrupt deal with Oakwood Realty had set Oakwood Heights ablaze, and I, Lily Bennett, could feel the storm brewing as Ethan and I braced for the final push, knowing that Karen, even from jail, wouldn't surrender easily. The community was on edge, and I stayed sharp, working late into the night with Ethan and Aisha. Our home office, a whirlwind of legal documents, evidence files, and laptops, the air crackling with urgency. The media frenzy had reached a fever pitch because the very next morning, the FBI made a bombshell announcement. They were launching a formal investigation into Oakwood Realty, Karen, and a network of HOAs involved in similar schemes to target residents for profit. My heart raced when Aisha burst through our door, her tablet in hand, her voice a mix of shock and victory. "Lily, Ethan, you won't believe this. The FBI raided Oakwood Realty's offices at dawn. They found a hidden server with encrypted emails between Karen and their CEO. They paid her an extra $5,000 after the wedding attack as a bonus for escalating pressure. And there's more. They've got recordings of Karen plotting to plant drugs in your house to get you arrested, saying, if the paint doesn't break her, a drug bust will. This is racketeering. She's facing felony charges now." I felt a chill run down my spine, my hands trembling as I processed the depth of her malice. Because this wasn't just sabotage. This was a calculated plot to destroy our lives. And I turned to Ethan, my voice shaking with fury. "She planned to frame us. Ethan, she wanted us in jail. We need to end this." And Ethan's eyes burned with resolve, his voice steady. "We will, Lily. This is the nail in her coffin." So Aisha sent the recordings and emails to the court and our press contact. And that evening, the story detonated across every major outlet. Oakwood Heights HOA president plotted to frame newlyweds in drug bust, the recordings playing on repeat. Karen's voice chilling as she said, "A drug bust will ruin them. They'll have to sell." And I watched as the public erupted, social media exploding with hashtag justice for Lily and hashtag stop Karen. Comments like, "She's a psychopath. Lock her up forever." And "Lily and Ethan are heroes. End this corruption." Flooding in, and I knew the pressure was crushing Karen, because the next day I saw neighbors storming the HOA office in a protest that shook the streets. The Garcias, Wilsons, and Mrs. Carter leading a crowd of over 400 residents, their signs reading "Karen's a criminal" and "Protect our freedom." And I joined them, my voice booming over the crowd. Karen took bribes to steal our land. She attacked me on my wedding day, planned to frame us with drugs, but we're not going anywhere. We're fighting for a Oakwood Heights where everyone's rights are respected. Who's with me? And the crowd roared, their voices a thunderous wave of defiance, some even chanting our names. Lily, Ethan, as we stood together, our hands clasped, a united front against hate. And I saw Mr. Daniels, who'd once doubted us, now at the front of the crowd, holding a sign that read "Justice for Lily and Ethan." His voice hoarse as he shouted, "I was wrong. You've shown us the truth. I'm with you." And I felt tears prick my eyes because this fight was uniting the community in ways I'd never imagined. But Karen wasn't done, because that afternoon her lawyer released a desperate statement from jail, claiming the recordings were doctored and accusing us of orchestrating a media smear campaign. And I felt my stomach twist, because I knew they were clutching at straws. But their lies sparked a flicker of fear in me, because I didn't want the community to falter. So I turned to Ethan, my voice soft. "They're fighting dirty. Are we ready for the trial?" And Ethan's eyes were fierce, his voice steady. "We've got everything, Lily. The truth is on our side. We'll bury her." And I nodded because I knew he was right. And the public wasn't buying Karen's lies. The comments online tearing her apart. "She's a liar. The recordings are real. And support Lily and Ethan. End this madness." And I knew we were winning, so I kept pushing, working with Aisha to prepare for the trial. And what we found next was a bombshell, because the FBI uncovered a hidden bank account linked to Oakwood Realty showing an additional $3,000 payment to Karen the day after her arrest, a contingency fee to keep pushing, even from jail. And I felt a surge of adrenaline because this was proof of her ongoing malice. So I sent the evidence to Aisha, my voice steady. We've got more. Oakwood paid her even after she was arrested. They're all in on it. This is going to bury them. And Aisha's tone was electric. I'm adding this to the countersuit, and the FBI is moving to arrest Oakwood's top executives. They're facing charges too. We're close. And I felt a wave of hope because I knew we were close. So I organized another community meeting at the park, my voice carrying over the crowd. Karen planned to frame us. She took money to destroy us. But we're stronger than her hate and greed. We're fighting for justice, for a Oakwood Heights where everyone's rights are protected. Who's with me? And the crowd cheered, their signs raised high, and I knew we were ready. Because this wasn't just about us anymore. It was about justice. For every person in Oakwood Heights who'd been made to feel less than. And I was going to make sure we won, no matter what came next. The recordings of Karen Foster's plan to frame us with drugs had sent Oakwood Heights into a frenzy. And I, Lily Bennett, could feel the community's resolve solidifying as Ethan and I prepared for the final showdown, knowing that justice was within reach. But I also knew Karen's allies would fight to the bitter end, even with her behind bars. So I stayed focused, working closely with Ethan and Aisha to ensure our case was airtight. My home office a hub of activity with legal documents, evidence files, and laptops, and the community's momentum was unstoppable. The viral footage of Karen's paint attack on my wedding day still trending with #JusticeForLily. But I knew the real battle was in the courtroom, and I didn't have to wait long because the very next morning, Aisha called with a breakthrough, her voice electric with triumph. Lily, the FBI just arrested Oakwood Realty's CEO and 2 top executives. They've uncovered a ledger detailing payments to over 20 HOAs across Texas, all targeting residents to force them out for profit. And Karen's charges have been upgraded to include racketeering and hate crime enhancements. She's facing up to 35 years. This is a complete takedown. And I felt my heart soar because this wasn't just about us anymore. This was about dismantling a systemic network of corruption. So I told Aisha, make sure the court knows, and let's get this to the press. The community needs to see the full victory. And Aisha nodded. I'm on it. I've sent the updates to the judge, and the press is already running with it. Oakwood's executives are turning on each other to cut deals, and Karen's done. And I knew we were close, because that afternoon, the news broke. Oakwood Heights HOA, part of statewide racketeering network. Realty executives arrested. The story detailing the ledger, the arrests, and Karen's upgraded charges, quoting me directly. I'm Lily Bennett. Karen Foster tried to destroy us out of jealousy and greed. But we fought back. This isn't just our victory. It's for every person targeted by this hate. Justice is being served. And I watched as the public celebration grew. Social media ablaze with #JusticeForLily and #StopKaren. Comments like, this is a win for all of us, shut down the corruption. And Lily and Ethan are heroes. They've changed everything. Pouring in, and I knew the tide had turned. Because the next day, the remaining HOA board members resigned in a public statement, their lawyer announcing, in light of recent events, the board will dissolve to allow for a fresh start in Oakwood Heights. But I knew this wasn't just a retreat, it was a surrender, and I felt a wave of relief because the path was clear to rebuild. So I called a community meeting at the park that evening. The aisle where I'd once stood as a paint-drenched bride, now a symbol of what we'd overcome. My voice carrying over the crowd of over 500 residents. Karen and her allies took money to target us. They attacked me on my wedding day, planned to frame us, but they've been arrested. The HOA's been dissolved, and now it's our turn to rebuild. We need an Oakwood Heights where everyone belongs, where no one lives in fear. I'm calling for a new election, a new board. Who's with me? And the crowd roared. Their signs raised high, the Garcias, Wilsons, Mrs. Carter, and even Mr. Daniels stepping forward to volunteer. Mr. Daniels' voice trembling. I was wrong, Lily. Ethan, you've shown us what justice looks like. I'm with you. And I felt tears prick my eyes because this was the unity I dreamed of. So we held the election that week, a diverse board now including me, Mrs. Garcia, Mr. Wilson, and a few others, and we got to work, rewriting the rules to ban discrimination, ensuring transparency, and using the damages from our lawsuit to fund community projects, starting with a renovation of the park, adding a community garden, a playground, and a space for outdoor weddings, so no one would ever face what I did. And we didn't stop there. We turned the community center into a hub for celebration, hosting free event planning workshops for residents, with Ethan leading architecture classes to teach sustainable design. And I watched as Oakwood Heights came together, the once divided streets now filled with laughter. Black kids, Latino kids, white kids planting flowers together, their parents sharing stories at the wedding workshops we held every month. And I saw Mrs. Carter there, helping set up chairs, her voice soft. Lily, Ethan, you changed everything. I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner. And I smiled, because those moments were the real victory, not just the arrests or the lawsuit, but the way Oakwood Heights had become a place where everyone belonged. And I knew the fight wasn't over, because prejudice doesn't die with one case. But I also knew we'd laid a foundation, one that could withstand whatever came next. So I kept pushing, using our platform to advocate for property rights across Texas, speaking at city council meetings, my voice steady. Oakwood Heights is proof that we can fight back, that we can build communities where everyone belongs, and we need to keep fighting for that, everywhere. And our story spread, inspiring other neighborhoods to stand up, to demand change. And I got letters from people I'd never met, families of all backgrounds saying, "You gave us hope." And I kept every one, a reminder of why we'd fought. And as for Karen, her trial ended with a conviction for conspiracy, hate crimes, and evidence tampering. Her sentence set at 32 years, while Oakwood Realty's executives faced their own charges, dismantling a network of corruption that had targeted communities for years. And I knew we'd won more than a battle. We'd started a movement. With Karen Foster and her allies behind bars, Oakwood Heights felt like a neighborhood reborn. And I, Lily Bennett, stood at the heart of that transformation alongside Ethan, not as heroes seeking praise, but as neighbors dedicated to creating a community where everyone could thrive without fear. So we threw ourselves into the work, starting with the new HOA board, a diverse group that now included me, Mrs. Garcia, Mr. Wilson, and several other residents who'd stood by us during the fight, and we met every week at the community center we'd established. Our voices united as we drafted bylaws that banned discrimination, ensured transparency in every decision, and prioritized projects that brought us together, like expanding the park into a vibrant space with a community garden, a playground, and a dedicated wedding pavilion where couples could celebrate without fear of interference. And we used the remaining damages from our lawsuit to fund initiatives that had been neglected for years, installing a community art wall for local artists, starting a youth mentorship program, and launching a neighborhood watch focused on inclusion, not exclusion. And I watched as Oakwood Heights transformed, the once divided streets now filled with laughter, Black kids, Latino kids, white kids painting on the art wall together, their parents sharing stories at the mentorship workshops we held every weekend. And I felt a swell of pride, because this was what we'd fought for, a place where Ethan and I could live openly as a couple, where no one had to fear harassment or sabotage on their wedding day. But I also knew change wasn't easy, because some residents, like Mrs. Ellis, a longtime friend of Karen's, still clung to their prejudices, her voice sharp at one of our meetings. I don't see why we need all these changes. Things were fine before. Now it's all so chaotic. And I knew what she meant by chaotic. She meant the diversity, the inclusivity, the fact that Oakwood Heights wasn't her exclusive little enclave anymore. But I didn't let her words stop me. Instead, I invited her to the wedding pavilion's opening day, hoping to show her what we built. And to my surprise, she showed up, her face tight with discomfort at first. But when a group of kids, including the Garcias' son Miguel, asked her to help them plant a rosebush in the garden, her expression softened, and she muttered, "Maybe this isn't so bad." And I knew change was slow, but it was happening, and we kept pushing, organizing events to bring the neighborhood together, like a monthly Oakwood Unity Day, where families participated in activities like garden planting and community art projects. The Garcias teaching salsa dancing, the Wilsons leading a mural painting session, and we shared meals afterward. Mrs. Ellis bringing her famous peach cobbler, her voice soft as she said, "Lily, Ethan, I never thought I'd see this. I was so wrong about you, about all of us." And I smiled, because those moments were the real victory. Not just the pavilion or the new rules, but the breaking down of walls in people's hearts. And we didn't stop there. Ethan proposed using the community center to host architecture workshops, teaching residents about sustainable design, while I led wedding planning classes, helping couples create their dream ceremonies. And I watched as creativity flourished. Even Mrs. Ellis volunteering to help with the wedding workshops, her voice soft as she told me, "I didn't understand before, but I do now. Thank you for showing me love isn't a threat." And I knew we were building more than a community space. We were building a future. So we kept pushing, using our platform to fund scholarships for the kids in our mentorship program, giving them a chance to attend vocational courses and internships. Kids like Miguel Garcia, who told me he wanted to be a landscape designer, his eyes bright with determination. And I felt a surge of hope because this was the legacy we wanted to leave. But I also knew the past wasn't entirely gone, because I heard whispers that some of Karen's old allies were trying to regroup, meeting in secret to restore the old HOA. And I saw a few anonymous flyers pop up around the neighborhood, claiming the new board was too liberal and destroying tradition. And I felt a pang of frustration, because even after everything, they were still trying to tear us apart. So I called a board meeting, my voice firm. We can't let them sabotage what we've built. We need to show the neighborhood we're stronger than their lies. Let's organize an Oakwood Harmony Festival. Celebrate everything that makes us special and invite everyone. And the board agreed, setting the date for the following weekend. And the festival was a success. The park packed with families, music filling the air, kids performing on the stage, their skits about unity echoing as parents swapped stories over lemonade. And I saw Mrs. Ellis there, helping set up a wedding planning booth, her smile genuine as she chatted with Mrs. Garcia about Miguel's garden project. And I knew we were winning, but I also knew the fight wasn't over, because as the festival wound down, I got a call from Aisha, her voice tense. "Lily, some of Karen's old allies are trying to file a new lawsuit to reinstate the old board. They're claiming the election was tainted by outside influence, and they're working with what's left of Oakwood Realty's legal team. We need to be ready." And I felt my stomach drop, because I knew what that meant. They were still trying to push us out, but I also knew I had the community behind me now. And as I looked out at the festival, at the faces of the neighbors who'd become our family, I said, "We'll fight them, Aisha. We've come too far to lose this now." And I knew we'd win, because Oakwood Heights wasn't just a neighborhood anymore. It was a movement, and we'd never stop fighting for it, no matter what came next. A year had passed since the paint-soaked chaos of my wedding day, and as I, Lily Bennett, stood on the new wedding pavilion in Oakwood Heights during the 5th Annual Harmony Festival, watching the sun set over a crowd of families celebrating together, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment, because the neighborhood we'd fought for had become a true symbol of unity, where kids of every race played together in the community garden, their laughter mingling with the music. And I could see the changes we'd made. The park, now a vibrant heart of the community, with its playground, outdoor stage, and the wedding pavilion where couples could exchange vows without fear. A far cry from the days of Karen Foster's reign, when she'd sabotaged my wedding out of jealousy and greed. And I knew this was the legacy we'd built, not just for ourselves, but for every person who'd ever felt targeted here. So we poured our energy into ensuring that legacy endured, working with the new HOA board to secure grants for more community projects, building a youth arts academy within the community center, a place where kids could explore their creativity through painting, music, and theater. And we expanded the scholarship fund, helping more kids attend vocational courses. Kids like Miguel Garcia, who just landed his first internship at a landscape design firm, his mom hugging me with tears in her eyes. "Lily, Ethan, you gave him a future." I'll never forget that. And I smiled because that was why we'd fought, for the future. Not just for our community, but for every child who deserved a chance. And we didn't stop there. Ethan turned the community center into a hub for innovation, hosting sustainable design workshops to teach residents about eco-friendly architecture, while I led wedding planning classes, helping couples create their dream ceremonies. And I watched as dreams flourished. Even Mrs. Ellis, who'd once resisted change, now a regular volunteer at the wedding workshops, her voice soft as she told me, "I didn't understand before, but I do now. Thank you for showing me love should be celebrated, not attacked." And I felt a lump in my throat, because those moments were the real victory, not just the Arts Academy or the new rules, but the way Oakwood Heights had become a place where people truly saw each other. And we held the Harmony Festival to celebrate. The park packed with families, music filling the air, kids performing skits about unity on the stage, their voices echoing as parents swapped stories over lemonade. And I watched as families who'd once lived in fear of harassment now danced together under the stars. Miguel Garcia and the Wilson kids racing through the crowd, their laughter a reminder of what we'd achieved. But I also knew the fight wasn't over, because prejudice doesn't disappear overnight. And I heard whispers of new residents moving in, some bringing old biases with them. But I also saw hope in the way the kids collaborated on art projects without fear, in the way Mrs. Ellis now led the wedding planning booth, her smile genuine as she said, "Lily, Ethan, you taught me how to be better. I'm so grateful." And I knew those small acts of change were the foundation of something bigger. So we kept pushing, using our platform to advocate for property rights and community equity across Texas, speaking at city council meetings, my voice steady as I told our story. Oakwood Heights is proof that we can fight back, that we can build communities where everyone belongs, where love is celebrated, not destroyed, and we need to keep fighting for that everywhere. And our story spread, inspiring other neighborhoods to stand up, to demand change. And I got letters from people I'd never met, couples and families of all backgrounds saying, "You gave us hope," and I kept every one, a reminder of why we'd fought. And as for Karen and her allies, their final lawsuit to reinstate the old board failed, the court dismissing their error claims as baseless. And Karen's federal trial ended with a conviction for conspiracy, hate crimes, and evidence tampering. Her sentence set at 32 years, while Oakwood Realty's executives faced their own charges, dismantling a network of corruption that had targeted the communities for years. And Karen's house was sold to a young couple planning their own wedding. And I saw neighbors help them move in, offering to host their ceremony at the pavilion, a sight that made my heart swell. Because this was the Oakwood Heights I'd always wanted, a place where no one was pushed out, where inclusivity was the norm. And on the anniversary of the paint attack, we held a ceremony in the garden, unveiling a plaque that read, "In honor of Lily and Ethan Bennett, who turned hate into harmony and built a home for all." And I stood at the podium, my voice steady. A year ago, paint was thrown on me to ruin our wedding. But today we stand here united, a symbol of what's possible when we fight for justice. Oakwood Heights isn't perfect, but it's ours, and we'll keep making it better, together. And the crowd cheered, Miguel Garcia running up to hug us, his smile brighter than the sun, And as I looked out at the faces, Black, Latino, white, all part of this new Oakwood Heights, I thought about Karen, now a footnote in our history. Her dreams of division shattered, and I didn't feel vindictive. I felt at peace. Because the real victory wasn't in her downfall. It was in the thriving community she'd tried to destroy. And as the festival wound down, I sat with Ethan, his hand in mine, his voice soft. Lily, we did this. We turned our worst day into a new beginning. And I smiled, because I knew he was right. But I also knew it wasn't just us. It was all of us, fighting together. And as I watched the last of the sunset fade, I knew Oakwood Heights would never be the same, and neither would we. Because this fight had taught us that true change starts with standing up, with refusing to be silenced, and we'd never stop standing up. For our community, for a world where everyone belongs. Lily fought back against Karen's wedding sabotage, exposed her jealousy, and united Oakwood Heights for equality. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe if you love this story. Hit the bell for our latest videos on HOA dramas and community triumphs. You won't want to miss what's next.